Welcome to Basketball Cinema, where we revisit the most important and iconic games in NBA history. I'm Jay Canada, and today we're looking at Game 4 of the 2006 West Quarterfinals between the LA Lakers and Phoenix Suns. It may not seem like an extremely consequential game to be covering here on the channel, but this is our first look at the legendary career of one Kobe Bean Bryant. And not just Kobe Bryant, but prime post-Shaq one-man team Kobe. 2006 was Kobe's second season without Shaq after the Diesel was dealt to Miami summer of 2004, and my guy Kobe tore the league up. He averaged 35.4 points a game in 05-06, at the time the 8th highest total in NBA history. To convince you even further how insane this season was, allow me to point out that the 05-06 season was played at the 5th slowest pace in NBA history. Kobe scored 40 more in a game 27 times, while the game was being played at a turtle's pace. Like, what the? Okay, so we've established Kobe Bryant, truly a different beast in 2006. But I bet you're wondering why I chose this game specifically to cover when Kobe has had so many legendary moments. And the simple answer is, we're gonna have plenty of Kobe-centric videos over the weeks, months, and years here on Basketball Cinema, and this playoff game against the Phoenix Suns is one of the first games I personally think of whenever I think of Kobe Bryant, thanks mainly to a legendary finish to this game. As we know, Kobe was taken from us tragically in January 2020 in a helicopter crash that also claimed the lives of 8 other people, including his daughter Gianna. I'm confident each and every one of us remembers where we were when we heard the news of Kobe's death, and I doubt there's a single NBA fan in the world who didn't feel impacted in one way or another by the loss. This is why I felt it was important to cover a game here on Basketball Cinema featuring Kobe Bryant early in this channel's life, because Kobe simply means too much to the game of basketball. As established, Kobe Bryant was playing like a man possessed during the 05-06 season, yet his supporting cast wasn't quite on the same level. And that's a huge understatement. Lamar Odom was a reliable wingman for Kobe. As you'll see in this game, he averaged about 15 a game during the regular season, but after that, Smush Parker, Chris Mim, Luke Walton, and Kwame Brown were all key contributors on the Lakers roster. Yikes. It's not tough to see why the Lakers finished 7th in the West in 2006, but Kobe was confident his team would find the chemistry in time to make a run.
You know, the system that we're playing is really predicated on us being on the same page and having that chemistry. And it's taken a while for us to pick up the nuances of the game, of the triangle and how Phil teaches it. But once we pick it up, I mean, you'll see a drastic improvement, and it'll happen pretty quickly.
On the flip side, the Suns finished 54-28 this season, and were led by Steve Nash. Another reason I chose to feature this specific game on the channel today is because of my affection for Steve Nash, who is my all-time NBA favorite player, and the main reason I had interest in the sport as a young person to begin with. Despite Kobe's gaudy numbers and overwhelming domination of the NBA as an individual, Steve Nash was awarded his 2nd straight MVP award in 2006. In the 15 years or so since that decision was made, there's been approximately 2.5 million arguments about whether Nash deserved the MVP, and obviously I'm biased as a Steve Nash fan, but here's the very quick case defending Steve winning it. Averaging 19 points, 11 assists per game was a wildly impressive feat in the much slower era of the NBA, and the Suns remained a legitimate contender in the West despite losing Amari Stoudemire to injury for all but 3 games of the season. On the other hand, well, Kobe did all that stuff I mentioned earlier, scored 1 million points, carried a super weak Lakers roster to the playoffs. Wait, whoa, why is this turned into a Kobe Nash MVP debate video? One hilarious take on the matter comes from Bill Simmons in his book of basketball. Quote, "I'm not saying Nash should be ignored, but if you end up actually picking him, either you're not watching enough basketball or you just want to see a white guy win back-to-back MVPs." By this point in his career, Kobe was already an established NBA great, but questions still remained about whether he could succeed without Shaquille O'Neal. Questions that clearly motivated the Black Mamba.
You know, I just kind of had to sit back and say, do I want to take on another challenge? Because, you know, I hear players, you know, especially my peers, say, well, you know, he's only this good because he plays with Shaq. You know, if I played with Shaq, I'd have 3 rings. Or if, you know, if he leaves Shaquille O'Neal, he'll never win another title. And you hear this type of stuff coming from your peers.
That bothered you?
I don't like that.
And after grabbing a 2-1 series lead, Kobe had a chance to show how much he didn't like that by taking true command of the series against Phoenix for his Lakers in 2006. Would a 3-1 lead for the Lakers become a reality? Would Kobe drop 1 million points in front of adoring Lakers fans? Would Steve Nash finally be revealed for the fraud MVP he truly was? Okay, this is getting out of control. Let's just get to the action already. Unfortunately for all of us, apparently this was an extremely busy day for the NBA, as the broadcast of Game 4 between the Suns and Lakers was joined in progress with the score 6-4. Unfortunately, we missed a couple early Kobe buckets, but we joined just in time to see him give Raja Bell the absolute work on the low block. What a move! Followed by MVP Steve blowing past Kobe to give him an early 6 points as well. Fortunately, we got to see the starting lineups for this matchup. Once again, I'll point out that as dominant as we remember these Suns teams being, an injured Amari Stoudemire meant James Jones was in the starting lineup. Also, Kwame Brown was starting a playoff game alongside Kobe Bryant. Good luck, Kobe. Absolutely nothing better than playoff basketball, and I absolutely love getting insight prior to a playoff game from an NBA player.
All the plays and sets, both teams pretty much got those down now. Now it's just a matter of who wants it more and who plays with more determination, who plays with more belief.
Okay, Steve, thanks. So, who wants it more? Yeah, okay, determination, got it. More belief, check. Oh, so that's all it takes to win an NBA playoff game? It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him. Boris Diaw won the Most Improved Player award in 2006, and he would play a big role for the Suns in this game. He got things rolling early with an easy look at the rim. Steve Nash uncharacteristically looking for his own shot early on, knocking down his first three-point attempt in the game. The value of Lamar Odom was on display early as he found Luke Walton with a nifty feed at the rim. Kobe was working exclusively from the post in the early stages, once again tossing aside Raja Bell before converting for two. However, Bell would draw Kobe's second foul of the quarter, sending Kobe to the bench shortly thereafter. Nash was making it look easy early on. I mean, suspiciously easy. Lakers defense, you good? But again, Lamar Odom was making things happen for LA. A beastly offensive rebound, and back to the free throw line he was heading. Bro, why is Steve Nash putting on a warm-up jacket when he's already got on a shooting shirt, pants, and a towel? My guy thought he was returning to Canada or something, I don't know. Late in the first, with Nash still on the bench, Phoenix showed their penchant for running, as Boris Diaw found Barbosa streaking down the court for two. Leandro Barbosa would then beat the Lakers down the court again, getting to the line where he'd convert both free throws. Haha, sick commercial with Vince Carter on the Nets, talking on a flip phone. Great stuff, T-Mobile. Great stuff. Things weren't going great as the second quarter got underway though for Kobe Bryant, as he rolled over Raja Bell, picking up his third foul already in the game, and back to the bench he went. Don't worry y'all, Kobe will have his moments in this game, just gotta wait a little bit. Lamar Odom did a lot of heavy lifting in this game, including with Kobe on the bench, converting a tough and one. Lamar actually led the Lakers with 25 points in this game, yes, outscoring even Kobe. Steve Nash checked back into the game and showed off his 44% three-point stroke, giving him 14 points out the gates. However, Devin George answered in short order with his first hoop of the game. The Lakers were wildly efficient in the early stages of this game, with Brian Cook finishing off another Lamar Odom assist, and Boris Diaw was caught hopping around the paint like he was Rocky Balboa in the ring with Apollo Creed, and he was called for defensive 3 seconds. Like, what were you doing, Boris?
Again, Nash, as you saw, doing most of the scoring. Nice pass. And Diaw with the finish.
Oh, wow, okay, how dare I slander Boris Diaw? My guy finishing a gorgeous lob in the half court off an on-point feed from Nash. With Kobe still on the bench, it was time for the Lakers supporting cast to take over. Insert Kwame Brown, who... Okay, never mind. No. Kwame missed a point-blank layup. Alright. But after Nash scored another one inside, Smush Parker said, "This is my time to shine." No, he didn't. No, he missed that one by a mile. Nash, by the way, looked awesome in the first half, finishing with 16 points on 7 of 11 shooting. At the risk of once again opening the door to rehash the MVP debate, I do want to have a quick discussion on Steve. As mentioned earlier, comparing Nash's numbers to the players of this current generation isn't really fair to the two-time MVP. Over a 4-year stretch at this point in his career, Nash averaged 18 points, over 11 assists per game on 51, 45, 90% shooting splits, and again, that 4-year stretch was played at one of the slowest paced stretches in NBA history. This is a big reason why Nash won 2 MVPs. That high-octane, high-efficiency offense that he and Mike D'Antoni implemented in Phoenix was truly revolutionary at the time, and they always played the game at their pace.
Well, we'd love it to get, faster and faster and faster, but, we're doing a good job. We're scoring on the break, and in the half court, we just got to do a better job of making decisions.
As we know, the style of play ultimately wasn't successful, but prime Steve Nash had an impactful hand in paving the way for the current brand of NBA basketball. Kwame Brown with, man, I don't even know what that was, to be honest. What an attempt. Thankfully, Smush Parker was able to pick up his play. Gosh darn it, he missed another jumper by a mile? Is this your supporting cast? To be fair, the Lakers were remaining in the game without Kobe on the floor. Sasha Vujacic knocking down just the second Lakers three of the first half. Sasha would go on to slash to the rim, drawing a pair of free throws. He converted both, and after Smush Parker missed a shot, surprising, I know, the Lakers and Suns would head to the halftime break tied at 41. Kobe Bryant played just under 10 minutes in the first half, and for as much fun as I did make of his supporting cast, being tied at the half was a wild victory for the Lakers. I established in the intro portion of the video that in 2006, Kobe Bryant was clearly on a mission to prove he was the most unstoppable scorer of the basketball maybe ever. The regular season numbers Kobe racked up were simply incredible, and led to another on-point snippet from Bill Simmons regarding his play. Quote, just when it kept seeming like he might wear down, he'd toss up another 50 on you just to keep you on your toes. Kobe was relentless. That's the best way to describe him that season. But strangely enough, although a small sample size to this point of just 3 games, the playoff numbers from Kobe were shockingly low, as he'd averaged just 23 a game thus far in the series. Bryant, however, viewed this as a positive in terms of potential team success.
We don't need him. You know, it was doing a part in the season where we were still trying to fit all the pieces of the puzzle together. Phil and I both knew that I was going to have to shoulder a lot of the scoring load until we got to a point where we could play with this type of chemistry. You know, it's more fun playing this way, because you see how excited everybody is.
As time has passed, Kobe has been labeled as a ball hog for his play during the post-Shaq era, but at least for a moment in time, he appeared to have bought into the team-first concept. The Suns, however, did get off to a quick start in the second half, with Shawn Marion finishing off an alley-oop from Boris Diaw. Just 6 first-half points for the Matrix, who's the Suns' leading scorer during the regular season. Another Steve Nash banker in the paint, and defensive specialist Raja Bell knocked down a deep 2 as Phoenix took a 6-point lead. Kobe missed one of the few tough shot attempts he'd taken to this point in the game, and following this, it was a strong stretch from the supporting cast of each team. Diaw with a tough finish off a nifty Nash dime, Luke Walton summoning his inner Kobe with a post fade, Kwame Brown finally getting some work done in the post. Another Nash assist once again to Boris Diaw, Vujacic converting a triple off a nice feed out the double from Kobe, and James Jones banged a triple of his own off a 3rd consecutive Steve Nash assist. As expected, I've been pretty hard on Kwame Brown thus far. Just trying to make you proud, Stephen A. But here in the third quarter, he actually scored 8 points, had 3 rebounds, including a pair of free throws to bring the Lakers to within 2. Following a Kobe spin floater in the paint, Kwame finished strong at the rim off a nice feed from Kobe, his 4th assist of the quarter. I mentioned Shawn Marion's name a few moments ago. He was 3rd team All-NBA in 2006 and finally woke up to close the third quarter. First with a pull-up mid-range jumper. After missing a wild shot, he was able to follow it up with a quick putback. With 6 seconds remaining, Marion flew for an O-board and was fouled. After converting the pair, he was able to score once more off a goaltending call, giving the Suns a 3-point lead. So here we are in the fourth quarter. Finally time for Kobe to take over and put his stamp on the game, right, Jay? Well, no. Kobe opened the quarter with a pair of turnovers, and after Shawn Marion once again put home a lay-in, the Suns had a 7-point lead. I promise you all that yes, at some point in this video we'll all be in awe of Kobe Bryant, but it did take a while. With Kobe slacking, how would the Lakers remain competitive? Insert Devin George. The 3-time NBA champ had been silent until the fourth quarter, but nailed back-to-back threes from the same spot in the left corner of the floor, bringing LA back on the Suns' heels. As a post-prime Taylor Swift once sang though, nothing lasts forever, but this is getting good now. And the Suns quickly erased that Lakers comeback. Boris Diaw got hacked and would convert both free throws. Bell flopped and drew Kobe's 5th foul of the game. James Jones hit a tough jumper from the perimeter. And Shawn Marion put in his final hoop of the game to send the Lakers to a timeout down 8 with under 6 minutes remaining. Haha, nice, it's Vince Carter T-Mobile commercial again. Bro, I'm literally dying over here. Unfortunately for the Suns, my guy Steve Nash had gone silent in the second half of this game. While he was still facilitating for the Suns up to his usual standards with 7 second half assists, he scored just 3 points on 1 of 10 shooting in the half. Not great, Steve. If you've ever wondered why Stephen A. Smith ranted about Kwame Brown in the first place, here's one example for you.
Kwame Brown on the follow. You go up strong in that situation.
He can't play! Fortunately, Lamar Odom continued to eat in Game 4, getting the hoop and harm over Shawn Marion. Steve missed another fabulous look from 3, and with 2.5 minutes left, Lamar Odom brought LA to within 1 after another couple free throws. Huge turning point in Game 4, as playing with 5 fouls, it was Sean Marion who put Odom on the line, fouling out of the game, leaving the already thin Suns front court weaker down the stretch. As we know, coaching can make or break these playoff games, and a great move here by Phil Jackson to put Devin George back in the game, replacing Kwame Brown. Rajah Bell hit a cold-blooded 3 to give the Suns a 4-point lead, but with under a minute remaining, it was Devin George once again.
Good pass. Devin George for 3. Devin George from downtown.
But the big shots in this game, they weren't finished.
Here in this one, Tim Thomas knocks it down. Baby. Thomas comes right back. And the lead back up to 4.
Tim Thomas was battling a knee injury, but managed to pour in a huge 10 points for the Suns in Game 4. Kobe was off with a chance to bring the Lakers within 3, putting the Suns completely in the driver's seat with the shot clock turned off in this game. The Lakers, however, perfectly double-teamed Steve Nash, a career 90% free throw shooter, and forced Boris Diaw instead to shoot the freebies, and he missed 1 of 2. Down 5, the Lakers had no choice but to go to their best player in the clutch.
Smush Parker puts up the 3. It's good. Parker puts it in. 2-point game.
Wait a minute. Who was it? Smush? A ginormous shot right in Steve Nash's grill to keep the Lakers alive, and with 7 seconds remaining, here we go.
They'd love to get it into Nash's hands, and they do. Ball knocked away, stolen by Parker. There it is. Here comes George to Kobe Bryant. Bryant inside. It's good. It's good. Tie game.
I told you all. I told you Kobe would arrive. I told you, didn't I? This was the picture-perfect way to play this situation as the defending team, as the Lakers allowed Nash to catch the inbounds pass, but instead of immediately fouling, Smush Parker recognized Steve was off balance and took a chance at the steal first. He was successful. Shockingly poor protection of the ball by Nash. And in transition, I mean, good luck to anybody trying to replicate this. Kobe Bryant with the awareness to know the situation, the time remaining, the lack of a timeout for his team, the need to score right then and there in transition. And the finish with just under a second left is just the chef's kiss on an absolute perfect moment. Boris Diaw contested about as strongly as you can contest a layup, yet the Black Mamba finished with a teardrop over him. Who needs the backboard when you're Kobe? After the Suns failed to score a miracle hoop off the ensuing inbounds, this game was heading straight to OT thanks to traditional heroics from Kobe Bryant. And also Smush Parker, I guess. Big shot, big steal, yeah, whatever. With Sean Marion fouled out, the ailing Tim Thomas had to play more big minutes in OT, and he came through in a big way for the Suns, knocking down a 3 from the left corner off the Nash setup. Kobe, as you'd expect, took over in the OT period, getting to the line and converting both free throws to bring it to within 1. I haven't done a specific deep dive on Boris Diaw in this video, but he was a wildly unique player in his prime. Here in OT, a quick post spin into a dunk gave him 21 points to go along with 8 rebounds, 7 assists, and a block for the game. On the ensuing possession, Lamar Odom simply wouldn't be denied. He missed a layup, a tip-in, but eventually put home another tough and one. As mentioned, it wasn't Steve Nash's finest hour in the back half of Game 4, but the MVP wasn't going away without a fight in overtime.
Nash, a 3. Bang! Steve Nash from downtown.
First of all, thank you so much for that bang, Mike Breen. My soul needed it. Secondly, I can't express to you guys just enough how many times I tried to emulate that exact hard dribble pull-up 3 in my driveway as a youngster after watching Steve Nash execute it so perfectly. The Suns were finally able to defend Lamar Odom at the rim, but with a chance to potentially seal the game, Rajah Bell missed the layup by like a mile. I mean, that was really, really bad. Despite the miss though, Suns up 3 with 15 seconds remaining, the MVP on their team, there was absolutely zero reason to be concerned.
He's going for the 2. Inside, quick score.
Yeah, clutch layup from Kobe, but still, best free throw shooter in the league, the Suns were just fine.
Reach in. A jump ball! A jump ball! Nash is furious.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, that's not ideal. I'm still baffled all these years later at this sequence. There isn't a world in which Steve Nash picks up his dribble in that situation without the intention of calling a timeout. I know I'm gonna sound super biased, but upon watching countless times, it does seem like Steve is yelling for a timeout to be called. Also, a really tough no foul call in that situation. Regardless, the situation was what it was. 6'3" Steve Nash versus 6'8" Luke Walton jump ball, with the game very much hanging in the balance.
Walton can tip it. Bryant with the save.
Oh, you gotta get a shot here.
Final seconds. Bryant for the win. Bang!
Yo, that shot gives me chills every single time, my word. I'm really not sure what I can add to that moment. Mike Breen with an early edition of his epic bang game winner call, easily one of the 2 or 3 most iconic times he's whipped it out. And for Kobe, despite all the questions surrounding him at this point in his career, could he win without Shaq? Was he a cancerous teammate? Was he a horrible person? In this moment, all that noise seemed like just that, noise. Kobe recovered a loose ball and once again with exemplary awareness of the situation, without regard for whoever was attempting to guard him, made his way to his spot on the floor, rose up, and launched the Staples Center into a frenzy. This is the first time in our basketball cinema run that when we discuss the legacy of a game we're covering, the winning team doesn't actually have a fairy tale ending. After going up 3-1 in the series against the Suns, the LA Lakers flamed out in pretty spectacular fashion, losing by 17 points, 8 points, then 31 points in the decisive Game 7. Steve Nash and his 2006 MVP award were seemingly vindicated in the moment, as he got the better of Kobe and helped carry his team to the second round of the playoffs. In fact, after Game 4 being one of the true iconic Kobe Bryant moments, the rest of the series played out entirely the opposite, including a wild Game 6 in which Kobe dropped 50 points, 12 in overtime, but the Lakers still lost. Game 7 has gone down infamously for Kobe, as he notoriously refused to shoot in the second half of the game as the Lakers season went up in flames, an act perceived as a shot towards media who were criticizing him for shooting too much, and to Lakers management, who hadn't surrounded him with good enough pieces to compete. We talked earlier in the video about how Kobe was trying his hardest to be a team first player, letting his teammate get theirs, not having to score 81 on any given night. And for a moment in the series, it worked. But it was clear that as the series wore on, the Lakers were not a good enough team around Kobe to work, and that number 8 simply had to carry the entire load for the Lakers to have any bit of success. Following Kobe's passing, Steve Nash shared an awesome story about an interaction he had with Kobe following this matchup in 2006.
We were at a Nike shoot together, and he came to me and he said, "How do you trust your teammates?" And I thought, inside, I thought, first of all, that's a sign of respect. And I thought to myself, with a smile, well, I have to trust my teammates because I ain't anywhere near the player you are. So for me, I need the whole pie. You can decide it's time and decide the game.
Steve offering some self-deprecating levity in the moment, but you get the sense it was an inner struggle for Kobe based on those comments on how to relinquish control on the court when his teammates weren't close to as great as he was. But once again, as it may pain me to point out, at the end of their careers, Kobe Bryant finished with 5 championship rings, Steve Nash finished with 0. Even though at the time, Bryant's style of play seemed less conducive to winning than the trusting your teammate style presented by Steve Nash, the answer for Kobe wasn't changing his style, it was finding the pieces to complement and enhance his game, which of course the Lakers would do in the years to come. We will undoubtedly return to the Steve Nash era Phoenix Suns in the future here on Basketball Cinema, so I won't go too deep into the legacy of this game for the team, except to say that indeed without their secondary star Amari Stoudemire, the depleted Suns were able to come back down from 3-1 to beat the Lakers in dramatic fashion, and after beating the Clippers in round 2, looked for a moment like they had a path to the finals. The Suns would actually go on to beat Kobe and the Lakers again in 2007, but that playoff run was also ended prematurely. To think this Suns team dominated a Kobe Bryant-led team for a number of years, but failed to ever make the NBA Finals? I mean, that kind of says everything about the bloodbath that was the mid-2000s Western Conference. One last somber note to leave this section on. The day after this iconic Game 4 between the Suns and Lakers, after a clutch performance for the ages from Kobe Bryant, his second daughter Gianna was born on May 1st, 2006. Rest in peace. For each game covered here on Basketball Cinema, I'll be giving out 3 awards, beginning with the Clint Hawkeye Barton Award for Most Underrated Performer.
I don't care.
Which today goes to Devin George. I considered giving it to Kwame Brown for the memes, or Smush Parker because of his gigantic 3-pointer and steal to end regulation, but I couldn't give the award to someone who shot 2 for 12 in a playoff game. Instead, it goes to Devin George, who had 11 points on 4 of 7 shooting in the game, including a huge trio of 3-pointers to keep the Lakers afloat in the 4th quarter. The Rick Dalton Award for Most Recognizable Moment goes to Kobe. Come on, it goes to Kobe.
Final seconds. Bryant for the win. Bang!
As mentioned in the intro of this video, this is the defining Kobe moment that has stuck in my mind as a basketball fan my entire life. No, this game winner didn't end up leading to a championship, but the drama leading up to this point in the game, the point in Kobe's career this shot took place in, and the difficulty of the shot after sending the game to OT with a wild shot in the first place, just an absolutely epic moment. Also, Mike Breen gave us a clutch bang call too, which you love to see. And finally, the Mark Jackson,
with all due respect,
award for weirdest moment in this game goes to this TV movie promo that ABC ran during the game.
Tuesday, May 9th.
the avian flu is here.
ABC presents a world premiere event that's one step ahead of the headlines.
There is no escape.
Fatal Contact, Bird Flu in America. Tuesday, May 9th, 8/7 Central.
Fatal Contact, Bird Flu in America. Right, so, okay, in 2006, this TV movie came out, and just let me read the tagline from Wikipedia, okay? A bird flu virus mutates and spreads across different parts of the world, causing major disruption. It gives rise to another civil war in the US due to shortage of food, medicines, and electricity. They knew in 2006 what was gonna happen. They knew? And that's it. The LA Lakers beat the Phoenix Suns 99-98 in Game 4 of the 2006 West quarterfinals on April 30th, 2006. Unfortunately, the rest of the series didn't play out in favor of Kobe Bryant and the Lake Show, but this remains one of a million Kobe moments that will live in the minds of basketball fans for eternity. If you enjoyed this episode of the show, please consider dropping a like down below. And if you can see yourself watching a few more of these in the future, I'd suggest hitting that subscribe button, maybe turning on notifications too. Next week, we'll be taking a look at arguably the greatest basketball team ever assembled in a series which pushed them right to the brink. But until then, I'm Jay Canada, and this has been Basketball Cinema. It may not seem like an extremely consequent— oh my goodness, okay. Sick wait. Well, to prove he was the most unstoppable scorer of what? But at least for a moment in time, he appeared to have bought— first with a pull-up mid-range jumper after wow, okay. I'm still baffled by all—